have been very much a part of the Carmel political community. Will you tell me about your experience on the library board, when you started really getting involved with politics, also your wedding at City Hall, and being mayor?
Um, Again, I think because of my family, I felt that one should be involved. Uh, and always for these things, I was persuaded in my political positions and so on by somebody else that there was a need. And this is how, for instance, I came, it was Hugh Bayless, who was then the city director, who proposed to me that I be on the library board, which was my first political office here in town. But you see, I had already joined the Carmel Citizens Committee, Dr. Herrick. And in fact, I was vice president of that and so on. And that's how I got to know Hugh Bayless and so on, was through the Citizens Committee. And I very much enjoyed that, but I was there for a short time. But mayor, for instance, it was Mayor Andy Anderson who came to me and said, there is actual criminality, not just nepotism. There are very bad things happening in City Hall. And, oh, first of all, they persuaded me to run, that was Gunnar Norbert persuaded me to run for the wastewater district, you see. That was called the sanitary district at that time, yeah, the first woman. But then Andy Anderson came and said there are just serious problems in Carmel by the Sea City Hall, and something needs to be done. You've got to run for mayor. Well, I had no money or anything of that kind, but I said, all right. And then he left for Hawaii. And I was running against an incumbent, Barney Loyola, who had one drawer in a file cabinet and who sat in the council chambers. And there was no mayor's office or anything of that kind. When I won by a very small margin, but I mean, that's when I went back from my married name, from Hearst. So you'll see two names. For the wastewater district in the beginning, I'm Charlotte Townsend Hearst. And then, but when I ran for mayor, Townsend was known, the name in the town, and I took my maiden name again. In any case, that I discovered that the planning department, there were no records. First of all, I took out a garbage can from a back storage room because there was a telephone in that storage room, and brought my own card table and chairs for a place to sit down. The City Hall was like the pictures that I showed you of the wedding, and people were just squeezed in together, and there was absolutely no record keeping. Things were in shoe boxes in the basement with dead spiders and beer caps floating around. The planning director had everything in his head, quote unquote. There was absolutely no paperwork or paper trail whatsoever. And having worked for the military, I knew that this was not a good idea. But also, when it was 10 o'clock, everybody had a coffee break in City Hall for at least half an hour, if not more, and the coffee paid for, of course, by the city. The Public Works Department, everything was a shambles, frankly. And they had a very strong and successful city administrator, which Gunnar Norbert didn't like at all, because Gunnar liked to micromanage things. And when he was mayor, he got rid of him. And his assistant, a really nice young man, but totally unexperienced, was the city administrator. And it just was non-functional. Not only did they have some people who did almost no work at all, who'd been there a long time, and they just didn't do anything. And they were impregnable because they'd been there for so long. the young city administrator finally admitted that things were, well, I would get, for instance, letters from Washington, D.C. saying, why haven't you sent us the information so you can have the grant of so much money and things of this kind. And so he agreed to leave his post or take a lesser one. And that's when we well, we did it completely in-house. I did most of the recruiting for the new city administrator. And advertising and checking the background and doing the whole 9 yards. David Merida, who was then the postmaster and who was on my council, he was completely against Peterson, Doug Schmitz when he first came and so on and so forth. But as I told you when we were talking, Doug came to town a week early, talked to all department heads, went to the library, studied Carmel, really knew Carmel, and I knew he was the one I wanted. And one of my favorite stories is I was doing background checks, and I couldn't get anything but fulsome praise for this young man. So I thought, how can I get, a non-biased view? And I thought, my golly, whoever is the media represent, the papers represent, they don't have any axe to grind. So I called the reporter covering the town where he was working then, the city, I should say, and said, tell me something bad about this guy. And the man thought for a minute and said, well, he's a workaholic. And we ended up with Doug, and of course she was marvelous. Without any controversy, without lawsuits. We had really badly incompetent people who had been there for so long they were entrenched. But he managed to give them other jobs. He got all those people out and hired really, really fine staff at that time. And I was able to come out of my storeroom and even have a room of my own. My goodness. A mayor's office finally, or an office for all the council. And there's a picture that I brought to you of my council, and we're sitting on the steps, and it was the cover for the budget for that year. And I'm holding a staff, and they're in the vault, given to us by a sister city in the Balearic Islands and so on. It's a staff of office, which nobody seems to use nowadays, which is too bad. There are other good historical things that are in there, I'm sure. In any case, I was told by a very competent person that we managed in 4 years to do more than they'd done in the previous 40. Some of the major accomplishments with the help of very good staff and so on, whereas the complete rebuilding and renovation of City Hall, just for instance, 2 shots, but a complete redoing of the general plan, which hadn't been done for years and years and years. Piccadilly Park, which we picked up and did. We put out, and this was Doug's instigation, by golly, 2, we sent to all the homeowners in Carmel, or the registered voters, 2 questionnaires asking everything. What kind of trees do you have near your house? Do you think there are too many art galleries or uptown? Are there too many gift shops or too many art galleries or too many real estate shops? Just asking people, the citizens. It was really in-depth questionnaires. And we asked the people how they felt about their village and what they would like to see changed and what they wanted to keep and what they would like to see changed. And we, the council, made decisions on that information. At that time, we had a core situation of Carmel, which was Ocean Avenue, which was strictly commercial. The periphery, we had resident oriented businesses, like hardware stores or cleaners or whatever. We also, by gum, did not allow the buses to sit and in those days they just let them idle the whole time. The buses dropped the people off and went down and parked at the mission, and then came back and fetched the people. You see, afterwards, they were not in the town at all. But our TOT, our transient occupancy tax in the hotels and the inns and so on, was still very high, even though we had the shops and things in this periphery of the center core were resident oriented. Under Doug Schmitz's, he is a financial whiz. Oh, another thing. He put the city of Carmel by the Sea in the real estate business. People said, you can't do that. There was a whole block that was going to be, it just had trees and nice things on it, not built. And it was going to be divided up into our little 40 by 100 lots, all these things, which was just a shame. Well, the city bought it and, and financed it by a loan, but you got a government loan, and redesigned where the houses would go according to the topography, according to what the land was like, where the trees were. And I think cut it from 16 to 8 lots, something of that kind. Where do you think the best and most expensive homes in Carmel are right now? Besides scenic, of course. But that is the cream of the cream. And that's where people really want to live, is that block that was developed, which was down near Santa Lucia and so on. And what was that called? It had a name, which I forget at the moment. But that, again, was an accomplishment. People said, oh, the city can't be in the real estate business. Why not? We can get very inexpensive loans. We floated enough money to buy it, and we made a profit.